welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley in Washington, D.C., reminding you to get Surviving the Cataclysm, your guide through the greatest financial crisis in human history. Obama, the postmodern coup, the making of a Manchurian candidate, and Barack H. Obama, the unauthorized biography. My three most recent books, all available from Amazon.com, ProgressivePress.com, and other important sites on the web. Now, the other big question in the background of medical care, of course, is the fundamental problem that having a 1965-style healthcare system, as it has been developed, assumes that you're in an advanced industrial society. You got to have industry in order to make all this possible. Medicare, the crowning achievement of the late New Deal, along with food stamps and a couple of other things, is a fruit of what was then an advanced industrial society. Pre-industrial societies can't do it. There's not enough social surplus if you don't have the machinery, the science, the technology, the factories, the production, the precision instruments, right, the microscopes, the hospital equipment. You can't have health care at that level. This is a matter of production. And, of course, in the pre-industrial society, your living standard, your life expectancy is 35 to 40. If you're lucky, thanks to advanced industrial society, the thing that the green fascists hate so much and have largely destroyed, advanced industrial society alone makes possible a longevity approaching 70, 75, 80 years for the average person. Pre-industrial society will not do it. The essential predicament of the United States is that you're attempting to maintain a medical care establishment which is typical of a very advanced industrial society in a post-industrial junkyard, in a rubble field. This is the issue. The triple revolution, the limits to growth, the various forms of radical environmentalism, lunatic tree-hugging ecology, and all the rest of it, what we can lump up as green fascism. These forms, exemplified by Holdren, that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, John P. Holdren, White House advisor on science to the regime, to the savior, those who hate advanced industrial society, who hate science, industry, technology, and progress, are essentially saying that there can be no health care, and this has got to be addressed. The only way, we hear, for example, that the health care budget is now 1/6 of the whole gross domestic product, and soon it'll be half. Well, if you want to do something about that, recreate the part of the economy that used to be outside of health care and supporting health care. That means modern industries. You've got to have the state-of-the-art infrastructure, and these are the things that I've talked about. You've got to build the 100 high-temperature, pebble-bed, fourth-generation nuclear reactors. You've got to build the 1,000 hospitals. That's a matter of construction industries, as well as the precision instruments that go in there. You've got to have your 50,000 miles, for starters, of maglev rail, capital goods, permanent additions to the capital goods stock of the country that also radically increase the productivity of labor by cutting out all those useless man hours lost in traffic jams and commuting over strange routes that were never planned into the urban areas. You've got to rebuild the interstate highway system, this pockmarked relic. It was a wonderful thing. That's also part of the late New Deal under Eisenhower, right? The greatest road building project since the Romans, started in 1956 by Ike, a very intelligent Republican compared to the lunatics we have today. And then, of course, the water systems. You want to get a nice glass of clean water? Well, you don't want cryptosporidium. In that case, you better start rebuilding all water systems and all sewage systems of all major U.S. cities, because many of these are now more than 100 years old. Some of them are more than 150 years old. New York City just built a large water pipe. That was a big engineering job. That's the kind of thing you need. That's where your stimulus ought to be going, into infrastructure of that type. So, again, if you want to have a healthcare establishment typical of a very advanced industrial society, you can't do it with a post-industrial junk heap rubble field and graveyard. You've got to go back to advanced industrial society. This is fundamental. Then we have the other question, little matter of the world economic depression. We're in a world economic depression. We're waiting for the second wave. It's getting worse. And just to tick off the points so we remember them, point number one, re-regulation, ban derivatives, ban adjustable rate mortgages, ban hedge funds, wrap up the zombie banks. They're all bankrupt. Reimpose Glass-Steagall, and stop foreclosures. Obama has done nothing for that. Then we've got to seize the Federal Reserve and nationalize it, and we're going to issue 0% credit for infrastructure building. That means what I just went through: the 50,000 miles of maglev, the 100 reactors, the sewage programs, the water systems, the interstate highway systems, and the 1,000 hospitals. So you begin to recreate a park of capital goods and infrastructure. Relaunch your science drivers. So we just had here today, we're told that a panel at NASA has essentially said that the NASA budget has been gouged so much under Obama that we're not going to be able to make it back to the moon in 2020. This is a panel led by Norm Augustine, I think formerly of Martin Marietta, and they say, NASA, you don't have enough money to go to the moon for 2020. Now, it's clear, Obama hates the space program. The space program is an intimate contradiction to everything Obama, the Wall Street puppet, stands for. It was very clear also. There was a polemic during the primaries between Hillary, who wanted to increase the space budget, and Obama, who wanted to cut it. He would set up these phony trade-offs with inner-city education and things like this. We've got to get back into space. We've got to have scientific optimism, progress, and we need the spin-offs. We've got to have industrial production on the moon, industrial production on Mars, and then we're going to get to the moons of Jupiter and other nearby objects in this great ocean of space. This is like Europe after the Black Plague. What are you going to do? Sit in the limited confines of where you are? Are you going to go out into the vast ocean? It's time to go out into the vast ocean. You've also got to save money, as I said before, on medical care by your biomedical crash program so you find the cures. And then the third one, of course, high-energy physics. You want some new energy sources? Great. Start a Manhattan Project for those. So those are your three, and we need more. We should be developing more science drivers, not fewer. So that's the recovery. And the trick is, dear friends, if you don't do those things, you don't get out of the depression. Don't let those Austrians tell you that there's an invisible hand that's going to lift you, or that there's a magic cycle that's going to bring you out. Or if you just let everything crash down in a deflationary crash, then there'll be a recovery. It didn't work. It didn't work in the 1930s, and it will not work in the looted and depleted world of globalization and global owning. Anybody who says they want to put you at the mercy of the market is expressing a veiled intent to do away with you, let us say, that they're expressing a hope that you won't be around much longer. So that is the slave ideology of the free market. It's the kind of talk that we hear from Republicans when they're out of power, pure demagogy, but not when they're back in. Oh, we just had the 28th anniversary of Reagan's budget cuts. And we have these right-wing reactionaries coming on television to say, let's take our hats off to Reagan, the great paragon of fiscal responsibility. Well, this is the guy who tripled the public debt in 2 presidential terms. Unbelievable. And then these same reactionaries go on and say, now let's talk about the crisis we have today with the deficit and the public debt. Well, it was Reagan who put the U.S. on that particular road back in the 1980s. So if you don't have a program, you don't get out of the depression. And if you're calling for the free market, you're calling for endless depression, which a lot of us won't survive. Back in a minute.